Oh, yeah. Welcome to Weddings Uncensored, where we drink and talk and drink. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Allie, and we are here breaking down the good, the bad, and the downright crazy of this whole wedding industry. Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Today we have part 2 of the wedding venue hunting.
Part dos.
Dos.
We have a fabulous guest, Marisa of the Harborside Pavillion, which is a gorgeous venue in Newport. And we're talking all things venue. If you're hunting for a venue, asking questions, even if you're well into planning. So tune in and enjoy. I think we're there. Yeah.
And you actually brought up a good point earlier, because that always comes into play too, is what time can we get to the venue? Mm-hmm. What time can we set up? So what you're contracting is your actual event time. But we are super flexible here about what it takes to set up the day. So of course, when we have something as important as a wedding, I want to make sure that's priority. So we obviously will do our best to make sure that the daytime is not booked, so that the coordinator can be here as early as she needs to be here, start getting everything set up. Oh, we didn't have an event the day before. Let's start getting ahead and let's start setting it up.
Nice. That's
so
awesome.
we give the maximum amount of time that we can, that doesn't impede on the actual event time that you have contracted.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But I don't think not all venues will do that.
No.
I've heard some stories,
Yeah.
and then we do get a lot of compliments from our clients, like, "Oh, you guys are so flexible," and it's like, great, because that's what we strive for. We want you to feel like we're here for you, to support you on such an important day.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do, it's like, okay, if I'm already here, of course, then I'll get the doors open for you.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not the case.
Like,
All the way
I'm just
around.
sitting on my computer anyway. You might as well go
come
set
on
up,
in.
dude.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of nickel and diming is like kind of famous in the venue industry, I feel like, and just surprise fees and things like that.
Yes.
So it's nice when a venue is transparent from the beginning. And, you know, it is, again, our job to educate people, right? To answer those questions, to not say yes to everything and just be realistic. So, I mean, are there any other like surprise fees or like red flags or things that have popped up in the past that people don't really think about?
The one thing is just that we require a day of coordinator. And to us, that's obvious. You should always have a day of coordinator, because that's the person that is orchestrating the wedding rehearsal. That's the person that's, from my perspective, lining up the wedding party. So I'm over here making sure that the plates are going where they're supposed to be going. My staff is all here.
Manager.
Yes. And I'm also here to assist the coordinator. So I will do whatever I can to be hands-on and to help. But those are a couple of like the differences. But sometimes, you know, the brides will be surprised when it's like, okay, and so by the way, we need to get in touch with your day of coordinator. Day of coordinator, like, yes, you. It's, first of all, it's mentioned previously. That shouldn't be a surprise, but it is sometimes. So that really is like the only other thing here at our venue that can pop up, because again, if you go with one of our wedding packages, it's like a super simple price. We just break it down per person. And so the only other thing that you have to put in there is tax and service charge. So it makes it pretty easy when you're trying to, again, figure out what that inclusive price is looking like. You know, anything else, you're on your own. You don't want a DJ? Fine. Put on a Spotify playlist, you know? And that's fine. It's what we're here for, whatever your vision is. But really the only thing that's ever come up as a surprise is day of coordinator.
Which is interesting, because I feel like every wedding should
That's
at
a
least
given.
have a day of coordinator.
I know.
Like bare minimum.
Yes.
It's definitely gotten more like popular and widely known, I think, like over the decade that I've been
that it's a
doing
necessary
it,
job
that
on
it
a
is
wedding
like
day.
it's not an optional vendor, but there is definitely still some where I have to like pitch like, this is why you need us, like, and it's shocking because most people just come to us knowing that they already need it.
I wish there was like an analogy we could say to people to be like, you have to have a coordinator.
It's not an option.
It's not like
if you're going to get married.
So you have a venue and you have a day of coordinator at least. Period.
At the period. Period.
It goes together.
Yeah.
I want my own, just for my own like family party.
Or just for life.
Can I just
help me?
clone
Your life
myself?
I just need someone to help me with my daily tasks.
Help me with
scheduled.
my life.
Keep me on time.
You probably could hire a planner.
A life
as your
planner?
Upgrade
life
from
planner.
It's like a life
upgrade
coach,
from
but
a wedding planner to a life planner.
But it's
for
also
a year.
someone in your ear when you need it to be like,
Yeah.
get your shit together.
Yes, exactly.
I've joked that I
I
need.
told you to fucking book them already.
You're not up yet. You have a long day ahead of you.
Yeah, you're running 15 minutes late already, and you're only doing your hair and makeup, Allie.
You haven't had your coffee yet.
I think we all need that.
I was good. I had water. So
Hair and makeup always runs long. We know that.
Always.
I like this. We got to keep each other in check, bro.
Yeah,
exactly.
we'll be each other's life planners.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
get a
I like
6:30
it.
a.m. phone
Randomly
call,
call
it's
you?
from
Yeah.
me.
Oh my god.
I love it. So, okay, so now we have the venue booked and we're into it. We have our vendors that we're booking. Things are looking good.
We're getting doing the thing.
We're doing the
Doing the
thing.
thing.
We're getting
We're
a little
loving
closer to the date. Tell me about kind of the rest of the process. What does the tasting look like? How do you decide on that?
All the fun stuff.
Yeah.
So ideally, kind of backtracking a little bit, ideally you're booking, a year out. So
Yeah.
that's like what our time frame looks like, and maybe a little bit of a cushion. And even if not, totally fine. I have had brides book 3 months and 4 months in advance.
Yeah.
So just know it's completely
okay.
possible. Yes. But ideally, we are setting up a tasting meeting 6 months out. So
Okay.
not too close, not too far.
Yeah.
But those are some big decisions. So we want to know, are you having plated or buffet?
Right.
And sometimes those decisions aren't even made until the tasting, until you're kind of getting a feel for what you prefer.
Okay.
And from there, it really just kind of plugs into what you envision for the room, right? So do you want to have, if you want to have buffet, where's that going? And then again, hopefully you'll listen to us on like logistically where it should go.
Please listen.
Yes. Hint, hint. But if you're doing plated, obviously that frees up a lot of the space in our ballroom because we're not having to set up those stations. And so that allows you to have maybe some lounge furniture set up. We've seen some fun things here. We've seen like caricature artists and obviously fun little, sign-in books and art pieces and things like that. So again, the logistics of where are we placing everything. So literally tasting to me leads right into the floor plan and what that looks like.
Okay.
And then also at those 6 month, at that 6 month mark, we should then be looking at what rentals are we doing? Are we doing upgrades? Do you want lounge furniture? Because I want to make sure that those are available. Because if they are things that we don't have in house, and then we are going to source ourselves, we have to make sure that they're there. And some of those things will go like that. And they don't even know.
Yeah, that's good. And it is important to think about how interconnected like your menu and your decor and your layout and stuff are
exactly.
too.
What are your colors?
Yeah.
And again, we have linen that you can choose from, but sometimes you're like, no, I want the pin tuck. I want to be fancy. And so we want to do something that's a little bit nicer. And so those are just things that we have to get reserved. And then that really starts kind of getting the ball rolling on, this is what our guest count is looking like. And, we're getting ready to send out invitations, which nowadays we're sending out invitations 3 months out. And we're getting RSVPs hopefully 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
So that gives us right into leading up to your event date. So, those 6 months can go by pretty quickly because we need to have everything set up no later than 2 weeks in advance. So ideally at 1 month, we're doing our final walkthrough and we already know exactly what we have in place. And we're literally just waiting for maybe those 6 people that haven't RSVP yet. That is in a perfect world. All we're waiting on. And then nitty gritty, that's what determines your balance and that's what you have to pay before your big day.
Right.
So those are just the full transparency. Those are the things that we have to be, visually looking at. Oh, Aunt Martha's paying for the bar. Okay, so we need to make sure we have her card on file.
Martha, thank you. Thank you. But please, credit card, Martha. Thank you. Okay, so we have a final walkthrough, and then what do you guys do rehearsal time here? Is that's included? Okay,
that is included. So you get a 1 hour wedding rehearsal, and again, this is where our flexibility comes into play. If you want to do it on a Thursday or a Friday, you totally can. And again, that's just because sometimes people are flying and they're coming from out of town. And so we want to make sure that it's when most of the people can be
go.
here. Because we all know how that goes. There's going to be that one person that can't make the wedding rehearsal.
Oh, yeah.
And that's going to be fun on the big day.
Yeah.
Fun for the coordinator.
Dick, just follow him.
Yeah.
Okay? you weren't here.
I'm just gonna
follow him.
I'm just gonna push you.
Exactly. And just move him during the
Oh my God, that's so true. There's always one bridesmaid that like moved the other girl that like didn't make it, or she's
wrong
drunk.
side,
she had too much champagne during hair and makeup. Like,
oh, do we sit down? What do we do?
Yeah. We all know that the cutest though is the flower girls, and then they just dump their flowers right at the forefront.
Well, I don't like kids, but for some people the cutest is the flower girl.
I do like the trend of like having the flower guys or whatever, and they're just like, oh yeah, they're
like the beer bros or whatever that are like doing something funny.
I do like that trend.
Yeah.
I'm down for that one.
I love seeing twists. Again, those are those personal touches where I'm like, yes, let me see what it is that you want to have on your big day.
Yeah. I like a flower grandma. I think that's like a cute trend too. Like the grandma's doing that. Yeah, that's fun. Well, also just because I want to avoid having children at weddings. So, do you guys have rules here as far as kids go? Like, do you require a babysitter or anything like that?
Nope, but you definitely should have.
There are a lot of venues that require, like, if you have more than 5 kids, like, they require a babysitting service.
Really? Yeah, no, we don't require anything like that.
Yet.
Even
you're like, actually, that will be added to our contract today.
A lot of times what comes up is, do we require security? No, we don't require security, but that is a preference. It has come up before, if you envision that maybe somebody is going to show up that you don't want, then by all means, like, hire somebody, because we don't have the capability of having somebody at the door to stop those types of people. So we can pick out the wedding crashers, but we don't know if that aunt or uncle is not supposed to be here. So security question comes up a lot, but no, we don't require that. So really. Yeah.
That's another one that'll pop up, and then parking.
I was gonna ask about parking here.
Is fun.
Parking is super fun, but like for this venue in particular, like as I'm driving up, I'm like, okay, it's probably, you're mentioning more like destination, like this is a destination. So for anyone that is flying in, parking's not ever an issue, because you just take an Uber and you get dropped off.
For our locals.
But for the locals, at least in this venue in particular, being Harborside, right? Like, what would that normally look like? Say it is a 300-person local wedding.
Sounds
what would
very
you suggest?
fun. So obviously with this area, we're on the peninsula. So the whole area itself can be very limited of parking, but we do have beach parking, and we do have some capabilities, which I'll get into. So I think one of the main things is going to be, what is your wedding date? Are you getting married in October or November? Because for this area, that's ideal for parking, because we're not dealing with yes, we're in off season. We're not dealing with the summer crowds. You want a Labor Day weekend wedding, you want a 4th of July wedding,
July.
Yes, you're in your head, you're thinking that's an exciting time, and it can be, but it's actually going to be very detrimental to the parking in this area. So it's also finding that balance, and we will heavily communicate that too, depending on the date that we're looking at. So something that we are able to offer here, which is very unique to the area, is we actually have our own parking lot. It's small, but we do have our own lot, and that's not something that a lot of places
around here
have.
Around here, for
so we will automatically bring in a valet attendant.
So they can stack the cars.
Yes. So that way we can fit, not the 5 slots, but we can fit 20 cars, give or take. It will depend on the size of the vehicles. And that is no cost to our client.
Oh, wow.
Then they can pre-purchase valet spots if they want to. So they can say.
That's huge right there, because already in downtown LA,
But it's just not even.
It's assumed there is a venue that requires valet, but it is not included.
No, and
so that's a hidden cost.
So it's a big hidden cost, and I think probably Southern
California,
California, like our viewers and listeners that live in other parts of the country probably don't think about parking as much as we do,
right?
Because it's just a thing in LA and Orange County.
Yes.
Like if you're listening in Kansas, it's probably not as huge
of
a deal. Yeah, but parking can be a huge hidden fee. Yeah, there are some venues in LA that require not only that you use valet, but that you use a certain valet service, and it's like an additional $3,000 that you
didn't expect. You know what you could get for $3,000? Wedding videography.
That's the whole package. That's the whole package.
It's a lot.
That can be easily a whole package. There's your whole heirloom gone.
You have to get a valet instead. No video, sorry.
You could have had video, but no. Look at this valet.
See, I don't really get mad like for people not hiring me. I just get mad that people don't get videography.
You're like, you will regret this.
100%.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
But again, these are all things like when you're starting your venue search,
you know?
Like what are the things that are important to you? I want to have photo, video. I want to hire my, this is the most important vendor to me.
Yes.
So look at your budget and line item it out and see what's reasonable that you can execute.
I like to tell all my couples, literally just make a list. The two of you, bride and groom, talk, because maybe groom is like, well, actually, like the DJ is super top. My husband and I knew like food was really important, so it came down to the catering, but our wedding was super simple. So for couples, they need to have that chat, because that's how you will allocate what your budget is going to. Maybe you're willing to spend the money, but you're not willing to spend it on this vendor, but you're willing to spend it on this vendor. And that is a huge conversation. So prioritize is very, very important.
Yes, definitely.
We have a whole episode on that called Honing Your Vision if you want to look back in our archives.
Please, because I'm sure I'm just going to repeat shit if I start talking about it.
Well, no, it's okay. I'm just saying
tangent right there.
I'm just saying that is super important, and we do have a whole episode on
Honing your
it. So
vision.
yes.
Pause. Watch that video.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
And then return.
Exactly.
Yes,
But no, like I love that though, because for Steph and I, my biggest thing was like I want a specific DJ, and we got him.
And that's
and
it.
Obviously, he was expensive, but guess what? The venue was in Riverside at a clubhouse at a 55 and over community. But I had a great fucking DJ.
Yeah.
So like that is totally where that priority.
And that's okay.
situation
That's
happens.
great.
Well,
that's awesome.
Think about it. So my husband and I have been married for 10 years now, and we're still talking about our wedding day. And those are the things that your guests are going to be speaking about as well. So we want them to still be thinking about like, oh my gosh, that venue was so gorgeous, or the food was great. But more importantly, did you have a good time? Did you have fun? Like, I know we use the term a lot, like cookie cutter, and that's great if that's like your style, but that's not what is going to make somebody remember your big day. You want them to be a part of the experience, and 100%. So all of these things are to offer that. You know? So including parking.
Yes. including parking.
Oh, you don't want that to ruin anyone's day. So there's actually a lot of self-parking for anyone that can't get a valet spot. We have a ton of beach lots. We have over 600 stalls at the Balboa Pier lot. Some of them are free after 6 p.m., which is ideal when you're starting at like 5 or 6, so then you don't even have to pay for parking. But besides all of that, obviously we have a passenger loading zone, so Lyft and Uber. Best friends.
They love those.
Best friends. Shuttle, limo, all of those things. There's bus stalls in the parking lots as well, so they can stage during the time of the event. But we are right next to the ferry. So if you're coming from the island, you can just come on over, and then you're just a ferry right away.
That would be a cool like experience that you just tell guests of like.
To do the ferry.
You're gonna hop on and come to our wedding via a ferry and leave via a ferry, But I
Via a ferry. Sounds funny.
Via a ferry.
Even it sounds very Italian.
I know. Via a ferry. Sounded like something more fun than it was, but
you're like a ferry. Wow. Okay, sounds good. But I have seen some venues too where they have, or a couple has paid for like a transportation bus, like a Lux bus or a charter. Jesus Christ!
Again, she's done that already.
Yeah, she's already done it. But I have seen couples where they purchase like a charter bus and they have a specific parking lot. They have done that in LA, but I have seen it done in Orange County as well, where people can, if transportation is that important to you and you want it to be smooth, then I think an option could be hiring a charter bus for transports to and from the venue.
Yes, we've seen that too. And depending on where they're coming from or where they're staying, we've seen their hotels actually either provide that transportation or, of course, it can be an add-on as well. But that is ideal. So again, we're talking about these, talking about being a destination location. And so the family was able to shuttle back and forth between here and their hotel. And that was provided by their hotel.
That's awesome.
So it doesn't hurt to look into what offerings are available to you.
And I think it's important, like you're designing this whole day based on your guest experience. Obviously, it's something that's important to you as a couple and, the choices that you make. But you have to think about your overall guest experience. And that could be starting with where they're staying. That could involve transportation. That does involve, this is a historic building and there's going to be stairs. I mean, those are all things to consider when you're thinking about your guests and what that kind of looks like as well.
100%.
So as a venue manager and who's been in the industry a long time, what are your like top pet peeves from the client side, from the vendor side, like spill the tea, girl.
This is where I think I'm very easygoing until you ask me.
She's gonna start yelling at the camera.
Yeah.
If you ever want to yell at a camera, that's that one.
Okay,
right
that's
there.
your camera.
That's
just look straight into it.
Yes.
Feels good sometimes to yell at a camera. You can do it.
I feel like a WWE wrestler if I do that.
Yeah. Just tell the camera, fuck you.
Can I get a walkout song first?
Yes,
sure.
Yes,
Sure,
you
can. Okay, so let's see. Pet peeves. I don't think I have very many, but I do need punctuality.
Yes.
And that is a whole process. Punctuality, of course, is the day of. If your coordinator says she's going to be here at a certain time, I'm going to expect her here at a certain time, because we are all looking at the clock thinking, this is what time these tables need to be set. Yeah. This is what time this needs to be done. So a big thing is just looking to vendors to make sure, like, hey, that we're within that time frame. I get it. Things happen. There's an accident and now everyone's pushed back in traffic. Things like that can occur. But it's just brings me to my next point, is that communication. If we're sending messages, just let us know, like, okay, we're thinking about these selections, we'll get back to you. Yeah. So, and we do our best to make sure that we're doing everything on our side too, to give you that punctuality and to give you that communication. Yep. Those are the two biggest things. Yeah. And they just go both ways. Those are the best things, and we need all of it. You will never send me too many emails. You will never call me too many times, and you will never send me too many texts. Even if I can't check it right that moment, I will need all of that when we're putting everything together.
Nice. I don't call me that much.
Well, your role is a little different.
I mean, I have voicemail. No.
Yeah, there is such a thing as too many phone calls as a wedding coordinator, but no, I agree. I always tell people I'd rather have too much information than not enough. Like, you'd be surprised what can pop up.
Exactly.
And I mean, certainly punctuality is important. And both those points are important on the client side and on the vendor side, right?
100%.
But for vendors, I mean, that's one of my biggest pet peeves, is like, I just don't understand sometimes how people can run businesses and not answer emails or not, like, it's a whole process. Fucking frustrating. I don't understand. And we're all on the same team as vendors, right? As venue vendor, like, we're all just trying to make.
It's like, I got you. So we're working together. We're not competing with each other.
Yes. We're all just trying to make a client happy. And it's not my wedding. It's not your wedding.
For today, it's team whatever the couple is. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's supporting each other.
It's not your day. Like, we are just going to do whatever we can to support.
We're here to give them whatever they want. This is the day.
Not all vendors have that team player attitude. Which
team player, that's a good point right there. You have to be a team player.
Yeah.
What vendors in particular, from at least your perspective, what category of vendors do you usually have most issues with?
Category, interesting.
Like, what category of vendors?
Well, I honestly feel like it's all of them. I mean, there are people who value themselves in the way that, like, they're an artist and their thing is the most important. So you do see it a lot with photo video, and it's like their timeline is more important than my timeline, and like getting the shots, and then like we're just not on the same page. And all of those things can be ironed out early. Like, if you're a photographer that needs extra time for portraits because that's your thing, and you have the drone and you need to go do these beach shots, like, we can solve all of those problems.
Just let us know.
Exactly. DJs and bands definitely can be divas, I think. Like, they'll kind of run their own program, or like the rules don't apply. Like, DJs all think they can drink. But they all think they can drink on the job, when most venues require that vendors don't drink, which is not that fucking crazy. You don't go to your job at Macy's and have wine the whole time. I mean, maybe you do, but more than likely.
I wouldn't.
I think this is an important reason why friends and vendors. Okay, so if you have a friend that does this, that, or the other, hire a professional vendor. Because your friends will think that I'm just a guest, and they forget that they're there to do a responsible thing on your wedding day.
For sure. But I think it's any vendor that also has a heavy hand in timeline, right? So usually that's photo, video, and DJ, I guess, more than anything. That I just don't understand sometimes, where I'm like, why are you making my life so difficult?
Right. And maybe we'll have another episode on timeline. But I think I can see it for photo and video, because I know if they want certain things done, then they want it done.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Sunset, they need it done right now.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's probably all photographers and videographers, when working with planners, when they send a timeline, I think knowing that the timeline doesn't mean nothing can change.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes, even when I get an email, I'm just like, this is the Bible, this is it. I can't change anything. And then I can get in my own head of like, well, when am I gonna have time? I guess they're not getting ready. But I think we have to ask the questions to the planner.
To the planner too,
And the couple of like, hey, we've got 8 hours, but I can't get this. Do you want to add more time?
Right.
Or can we figure out a way to change something?
Right.
Because most of the time I just assume, all right, I can't change anything. So I think just asking the question
totally
would be helpful.
I love it when I'll send out a timeline and a photographer will email back and be like, thanks for this. Here are my questions, or here are my notes. And I'm like, first of all, that means you actually fucking read it, which is a step above what some people do. They're just like, oh, sure, knock at that.
That's half the battle right there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, this is supposed to be collaborative, right? Like, but it's about the couple. I'm shocked by how many times there's a photographer that's like, well, I need all this time for getting ready photos. And the couple like doesn't really care about getting ready photos, you know?
Exactly.
So it's just communication, right? Yeah. Like, what are the priorities? Expectations, timeline, or logistics. We always talk about these same things over and over again, but that's the reality. Yeah.
100%.
Well, thank you so much for showing us around. And we are going to have a venue tour video as well. So if you're listening or watching on YouTube, please tune in to our kind of part 2 or part B. Part 2?
It's just a tour. It'll be a tour. It's a venue
tour of the
video.
Space. But can you tell all of our wonderful listeners and viewers where they can find you, you know, on the gram, on the World Wide Web?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. So we are the Harborside Grand Ballroom. You can find us on Instagram at Harborside Pavillion. And let's see, you can email me, you can call me. Don't text me. No.
Yeah, right.
But seriously, just come on by. So our address here is 400 Main Street, and we are just at the end of the peninsula. And so just come on in and then come on upstairs so I can show you around and you can take a look around. Thanks so much.
We're at 400 Main Street, Newport, California.
Yes.
For our
92661.
Yes. It's not just any Main Street.
You would think it's interesting that you bring it up. You would think that that's not that big of a deal, but no, we are not Newport, Rhode Island. We are Newport Beach, California.
There we go.
Oh, it has kind of Rhode Island-y vibes here sometimes. I could see that. Someone getting confused with that.
Do like a Cape Cod feel.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I never thought about it. Okay, well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Cheers.
Cheers.
And to all of our wonderful viewers, we will see you next Tuesday.
Peace.